Hey, 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 everybody! Welcome to another episode of Talkin' Shop. I'm the host and creator of this, Anthony Crawford. And before I say anything else to this microphone, please show your love and give your applause to Jim, owner of Mutiny Information Cafe. My main man Neil back there working the sound. Kyle up here on the video. I appreciate y'all coming out. For those that have never listened to this, I don't know if you guys have ever listened to this podcast or been to one. But seriously, this is the most selfish thing I've ever created in my life. And I can't believe people dig this. But I bring the best people in the comedy world up here to literally just talk about how they do things, where they got to how they are, and things of that nature. And the whole reason why I created this podcast, I say at the beginning of every episode, was to one day pick the brain of Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock. It's that's the only reason why I ever created this. Until then, I find the best people that I can get my hands on. And by no means is today an exception to that rule. Alright, now before I introduce my guests and we get in our conversation, I always like to drop little advice, jewels, wisdom, whatever. Take it if you want, leave it if you don't. It doesn't matter to me either way. But one of the cool things about my guest to my left on her comedy works is she opens up the club to where we can come and literally study the comics on the weekends, which is one of the biggest things. And I don't know if y'all realize this, but a lot of clubs don't do that. We still have to pay to get in there. You know, we still got to do all this just to be in the building. She opens up the door so we can study comics. And that's the beauty of how she runs the club. Now, I want to expound on that by saying, don't just study comedians. All right? I don't. If that works for you, do it. But one thing I throw out there is don't just study comedians. And this is going to sound very weird, but I studied three main entities. And the first one's going to sound very weird. But porn, politicians, and musicians. I study those three hard. Why do I study porn? It's not for the sex or the nudity. It's not that. One of the things I realized, and I can't remember who actually made me start realizing this, but porn is always on the forefront of two things: technology and trends. Always. They're always on the forefront. A lot of y'all are too young to remember Betamax. You know why you never really learned that it was a thing? It's because porn did VHS instead. Same reason with Laserdisc. Porn did CDs and DVDs instead. Why do you think VR is a thing? Porn is doing it. Porn's in the 4K right now. You know, those are the things I look at technology-wise. I just want to see what porn is doing as far as that goes. When I do sketches, the camera angles, you know, it's dumb, but all of us has laughed at a stupid porn.
I think you're leaving out the critically acclaimed porn and how much there is out there.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about they obviously just filmed this in a hotel room or the back of their car. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about the multi-million-dollar companies and stuff like that. I'm glad this might make sense to somebody. But they're always on the forefront of what is popular. Everything they do. And then
sex. They have a lot of sex.
And sex.
Yeah, they have a lot of sex on the forefront of everything that,
yeah.
That's popular.
But like, dude, true story, didn't know Game of Thrones was that popular until I saw like 15 porn parodies of it pop up. I didn't know True Blood or any of these other shows were popular. I didn't have HBO. I don't have HBO. I didn't know it was that great.
Well, I mean, I didn't know that they were doing porn parodies of it.
Oh yeah, they got a porn parody of everything.
No, maybe I should start watching it.
Dude, they got a porn parody of the Jeffersons and the Cosby Show and Saved by the Bell and Home Alone. And dude, like that's a lot of the times when I come up with these random jokes of like the Home Alone joke, I probably wouldn't have written that if I didn't see that, oh shit, they made a parody of Home Alone in porn.
Wow.
Wow, that many people still remember Home Alone? well, let's see if I can pull some. You know, dumb. It's stupid. It's not like I'm studying porn all day. It's not that. You know, but it's just one of the little things I look at. Politicians. I study politicians, how they speak. Because every politician's job is to make you like them. That's their job. So I study how they do that, regardless if I like them or not. I study how they do it. I study
Most
how they
of them
talk.
fail, don't you think?
Most of them fail.
Because I don't think we like very
horribly.
many of them.
No, they don't. But I still study like the little things, like how you could tell when W was confident or not. You know what I mean? How he spoke. When Obama tried to make a point, he leaned on one side of the podium. You know, and like almost brought you in. You know, when Trump, when people start chanting, just I know I don't like me, but but the confidence he has on stage is almost Jeselnickish when he speaks. You might not like it, but this is the dumb things I study. This is the dumb things I look at. You know, like, and musicians, mainly I study the rock bands and stuff like that. But like the stuff I do with the mic stand, if you've ever seen me perform, dude, that's all Steven Tyler, Aerosmith, that's James Brown, that's Freddie Mercury. You know what I mean? Like I study how they hold the mic when they lean in to get on that. Like I just watched Live Aid and Freddie Mercury when he got off of the piano and finally got that broken mic stand, and just how he worked the mic stand. You know, when he was singing, how he, like when he trying to get crowd response, he'll lean the mic out a little bit at him, stuff like just little dumb things that you can take from people performing. It's just stupid. It's dumb, but I took a lot from it. If you took anything from that, sweet. If you didn't, well, I just spoke for 10 minutes. So there's that. But without further ado, let me bring up my esteemed guest to my left. Thank y'all so much for showing up for this. Owner of easily one of the best comedy clubs in the country. Actually a real good person. I'm free to open and talk to her whenever you see her. Great person. Give it up for Wende Curtis, everybody. Wende Curtis!
Thank you, my fan club is here.
The third time,
I know,
right? I appreciate you doing this.
Well, thanks for asking. I'm thrilled.
And a lot has happened since the last time you've been on here. I'll go ahead and say this. We lost someone since the last time, Deacon Gray, rest in peace. And it amazed me how much Deacon actually did at the club. Yeah. So how has it been transitioning from Deacon being there? Like how have y'all gone about replacing that man?
Well, it's been hard. Not only, did we lose a friend, did we lose someone in the community, but as far as the organization goes, we lost somebody that for almost 20 years had been in that position and had really grown that position. And, he came up with funny Final Four. I've said this a lot, that I didn't pay attention to college basketball, March Madness, Final Four. I had no idea what that was. So now I refer to March Madness as the funny Final Four, always. But, the clean contest, and he grew the contest too. We grew the contest as people, more and more people wanted in, etc. But all of that was under his umbrella, all his ideas, and he could talk at my level regarding sports, where I could figure it out, you know what I mean? And so it was a huge, huge loss. And it was almost 5 years prior that, we knew he was sick. And I think I was always in denial in that I never let it hit my head that we might actually lose him. And one time when his brother was in town, we were out to lunch and he stepped away and I said, what is the prognosis? And he said, it's not good. And that was probably 2.5 years prior to him being gone. But anyway, I say all of that because I was ill prepared in my head, and I'm kind of a planner. I like to plan things out. But how do you say to somebody, look, you're going to die, so can I get your records so that we don't miss a beat, right?
Yeah.
So I I just didn't think he would go so fast. Because prior to him going as well, you know, they told him that he had 6 months, and he was gone 2 weeks and 2 days later. It was kapow. So it was hard. It's been really hard. And I think it's been hard on everybody, but I think it's been really hard on me trying to get somebody else in there. And as we have competent, great guys in there trying to handle it, but they too don't know. You know, I had dinner with them a couple of nights ago, and we talked about this, and I'm like, you guys are gonna, they're worried about that they're gonna disappoint me or make mistakes. I go, you haven't done this before, right? We're all gonna make mistakes when we haven't done it before.
Right.
And nobody's gonna come down on you because you haven't done this before and you made an error. Anyway, it's tough. You know, and we've missed a lot of stuff.
Right.
Deacon and I were talking about promotions in the very end. In the very end, he wanted to talk about them, but he literally didn't have the energy. You know, literally didn't have the energy to get a couple of names out of his mouth. So, it's been hard.
I get that. Now, as far as new talent night goes, you have Elliot Woosley and Roger Hack pulling that.
Right. And Roger was helping Deacon in the end,
yes.
you know, with all the administrative stuff and organizationally helping him. So that made that sort of transition easier. And Elliot's not an administrative guy.
Yeah.
You know, Deacon was kind of that package, but you're never going to find that in a comic.
No.
That's that whole thing that loves to teach, that loves the craft, and that's really organized and loves spreadsheets. Never going to happen. But, you know, we have that combo with Roger and Elliot. And they really love it in terms of what they're doing. I know that part. And, you know, I don't care if it's 4 people doing it, you know, but they like it, so. Nice.
And have you thought about bringing any of Deacon's shows back, like Funny Final Four or the Gut Cracker or the Clean Contest, any of that stuff?
Yeah, actually, a couple nights ago we laid down we definitely laid down the Funny Final Four for next year. The rest of the contest for this year, of course, but that was just a formality. Right. We didn't lay down the Clean Contest, but I think we will. I think I was supposed to do something with that. Go back and look at something. Was that 4 weeks plus 1? What the hell was that? I think that was on my plate. Whoops. Thanks for reminding me. So I'll go back and do that. Yeah, you know, I just, again, was so ill-prepared with him passing in November that the Funny Final Four never happened, and I couldn't make it happen. You know, because I couldn't. I was, you know, I packed up his apartment.
Yeah.
I've still got much of his stuff in my office, just outside of my office. Much of it packed up downstairs in storage, labeled carefully. So when I go to set up the Deacon library, if you guys didn't know this, he had this huge library of comedy. Yes. I mean, stinking huge. So we do want to put that up in our corporate offices and let people, you know, allow them to check it out and stuff. I've just not had you know, I've not been in that mindset. I think I'm getting close to where I can, like, get it organized and get it ready. Because he wanted it to be shared, and it should be shared, you know. That's another way that you guys can learn, besides watching porn, which is important. I now know. Sweetheart, did you hear that? We're working. You know, I do want to add this. May I say this?
Go ahead. Go for it.
I remember years ago having this conversation with Deacon, and I think it was about a couple of particular comics they were coming through or something. But I loved his observation about them. They were like, you know, traveling, like feature acts or something. And he said they're just those kind that go to the mall every day. They're not reading. They're not putting in anything into their mind. They're not watching the news. They're not studying anybody. And so that's what's coming out. Nothing important, you know? I thought that was really insightful. And of course, he was a reader.
Yes, he was.
An avid reader. I'm like, what? You're reading what? Who's that? He was a big reader. But I think it is important to pay attention to what's going on around you and to read something outside of your realm. Because you are going to regurgitate, right? Whatever it is that you're putting in there.
Yeah, easily. And I meant to say this to you guys. At any point, you can literally interrupt us. There's a microphone right there. If there's a question that's weighing on you, please feel free, interrupt us, ask your question. This is more for you guys. I'm just up here asking random questions that I'm pretty sure y'all don't care about. So feel free, ask questions and all that. Now, one thing I wanted to ask, and trying to figure out how to word this. People that get ended up messing up, and they get kicked out of the club, or they get blackballed or whatever. How do you go about that? Do you give them a chance to come back? Is it like a suspension time? Is it?
Well, a lot of people that have really been, let's say, blackballed or that are banned from the club, is the rule has been if you get up on the stage drunk. You can't go to work and get up there and be drunk.
Right.
And I believe in second chances on everything, on anyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what, hopefully that's what our prison systems are about. Not really, but you know, but of course, it's about redemption and people, but they got to earn it back.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Hickox is a good example. He fixed his life, and he asked to come back. Well, that was fine,
mm-hmm.
right? It made sense.
Right.
But those are the only people that have been really blackballed,
okay.
shall we say.
Sure.
There are people that have at one point been on the schedule that maybe are no longer on the schedule for various reasons. They went away for years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Brian Hawker. Brian Hawker was in Almost Famous, and then he was on the schedule. And then, I don't know, some chick came into his life. No offense, but chicks are bad news. I'm kidding. He got into a relationship. He was in love, right? And the chicks are bad news. Sometimes you just got to put them in, you just got to find your balance. But he, truly, I remember him telling me this. He just found, a girl that he really loved, and he wanted to spend time with her, and he stopped doing comedy. Well, you lose your chops, right? You don't do this for years. You lose your chops. You can't just go right back to where you were. So he and I just had a brief discussion about, he's gonna be Almost Famous for a bit until he, gets his chops back, and he will, because that's what we know. He got him the first time, he get him the second time.
Right.
Absolutely.
Nice. Now, when it comes to people that genuinely have issues with not getting promoted in the club, not getting those opportunities, what do you say to those guys that, because there's a lot of people like, oh man, Wendy doesn't have a lot of black folk on the list. What's still with that? Wendy doesn't have a lot of women on the list. What's still with that?
Well, I'm racist and sexist.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the accusations.
You hate yourself.
I do. Most especially women. No women on that schedule.
Yeah, chicks are bad news.
Chicks are bad news. Well, it's difficult to address that because I believe affirmative action, had its place and still has its place in some circumstances. I don't believe that it has its place in comedy. As I've said to a lot of people, I've said this in Montreal in the last 2 years when I've sat on the Gatekeepers of Comedy panel, and
they had that?
Yeah,
wow.
it was good. Lots of fucks, I said. But I believe that we're in the comedy business, and if I want to have surgery, if I need to have surgery on my eyeballs, I'm not going to go out there and look for an eyeball surgeon that's a woman, or an eyeball surgeon that's a gay man, or an eyeball surgeon that's a black woman, whatever, right? I'm going to look for the best eyeball surgeon. Isn't that what we want?
Yeah.
We want the best. And that's what I think Comedy Works is the best. We have a lot more women that are coming into comedy just by the statistics from the New Faces contest. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's 3 women that are currently in Almost Famous out of about 10 of them. There's 3 women, I think, on the schedule out of more than 10. But those numbers are still higher than they've ever been. And eventually there'll be a lot more. But these showcases that I hear that are 50-50, and you've got to put 50%, they had that rule that like 50% women, I go, well, that's a bad fucking show.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, that's just a bad show, because if that's your criteria, that half of the people have to be women, or have to be gay, or have to be black, or have to be green, that's just retarded. How about funny? They have to be funny.
Yeah.
And you're not doing anybody any favors by putting a lesbian, black, woman in a wheelchair on that stage prior to her being up with everybody else. You're not doing anybody any favors, period. You're sending a message that you don't have to work as hard because of this. And right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to turn people into stars that will go out and start selling out arenas because I'm getting tired. So when I start getting lazy in a few years, you guys need to come back and do shows for me for free. But truly, I mean, we're trying to, right? I mean, isn't that what we've always wanted to do? As a club, you want to send people out to be stars. And you're not doing them any favors at one of these first rungs by putting them on because they're a woman. And Deacon and I had these discussions. I remember years ago, and it was promotion time or something, and it was about a woman. He said, we just don't have enough women on the schedule. I go, but she's not strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do that to her. And that's really, you know, that's it. And in some of my other conversations about some of these other festivals and things around the country, let me tell you, they got boxes to check because nobody wants to be politically incorrect right now.
Right.
And so they are putting more gay people and more women and more whatever, green people. I'd rather look at it as we're all colors, green and blue and pink and red, and because it sounds like, it just sounds better. But, and you know, we all want all of that. But you're not doing anybody any favors. And it's not fair to the white man or to the man in general, right? If you're passing on them to put someone else on there to reach some sort of a quota.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not doing scholarships to college here, right? I just don't believe that's the way we should do it. Funny is funny, and that's the business we're in.
Right.
That's my feelings. I don't know. Let me take a sip of this.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. I had recently got into a very rare Facebook argument now because I'm been pretty good at that. But I had a comic who really, I think he's from Virginia or something, but he got so mad at me because I was like, there are certain comedy specials that shouldn't be considered comedy specials. It should be like one-man shows, one-woman shows. Like, for instance, Nanette, Hannah Gadsby's. I think it should have been considered a one-woman show instead of comedy. And this dude got on me because he was like, you can't define comedy. And I was like, yes, you can. There's a definition. You're performing to get laughter from an audience.
And I concur with you about that one. And stand-up comedy is a little different than that. And I very much think that show is I love it. I think it's great. I saw it in Montreal last year too. I saw her in Montreal last year, and I think she's talented, but it's not stand-up, and it really is more theatrical, and you know, belongs in a theater as a one-woman show. It's brilliant. And you know what else I think?
What's that?
Speaking of one people show, I saw Adam Caden Holland's show in Montreal, you know, kind of based on his book. I saw him the second of his third night performing in Montreal. That was his 5th run-through of that show. And may I say to you, holy shit. It was fantastic. It needs, you know, by the time he gets to 50, I can't even imagine how powerful it will be because it gets you in the gut, it gets you in the heart, it makes you laugh, and it makes you ponder a little bit, right? That show will be off Broadway, and it will have a Broadway run. Mark my words. I said it right here, mark my words.
Nice.
And I'm going to push for it.
Nice. Congrats, Kate and Holland.
Yeah, it's really amazing, you guys.
Yeah.
And so we need to get him to do it around here.
Do you consider it more of a one-man show, or
I do, absolutely. And it was in a small theater that couldn't have been too much larger than this. He was on a very small stage. It sat 40, so isn't that perfect intimate setting for something like that? But absolutely, it was a one-man show. Yeah. And you know, they do some really crazy out there things and some more things like that too. They do so much more than they used to do in Montreal, and it was truly fabulous.
Nice.
Yeah, we got to see it. I'm going to call him tomorrow and say, hey, we got to book one of those. Let's book one of those in the club.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And you guys all have to come.
Remember that, Adam. I got you booked.
That's right. Right here.
But I honestly, now, what irritated me about the argument I was having with that comic was he was taking it as though I was talking shit about Hannah. And no, all I said was it wasn't funny. It was good. Wasn't funny.
Right.
So it's not comedy.
And I think there were some funny moments, but I absolutely see what you're saying, that categorizing it, it's not really stand-up comedy.
Right.
And I'm with you. And Mike had that opinion too when we were like, and I had seen it before Montreal, and he goes, but it's not really comedy. And I go, well, it's comedic, but it's not stand-up.
Right.
It's not stand-up.
Now you said you have Kate Holland do his. Would you have more one-person shows, or are you trying to lean more comedy? Yeah,
I would have more one-person shows, and I'm working on another room in Denver. I've wanted for a long time, just like a little nothing B room, thought years ago about doing something maybe up north, like a good solid B room. But I don't want to go that far to go to work. But truly, I want to do something in Larimer Square down there. And I've said to them, give me a little nothing. If you think it's nothing and you have to enter from the alley, the sexier it is like that, the better it is for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in discussions with them about doing a room where I can do something else all the time. Because we've only got 7 nights a week, and the South Club is 13.52 miles away. And let's face it, that is way too far to go sometimes.
Yeah.
So if it was right there, I think we could do something.
Mm-hmm.
7 nights a week.
Nice. Now, speaking of that subject, our old buddy David Rodriguez is starting his club in Fort Collins soon. Did he reach out to you about that? Did he get some tips and all that?
A little bit. Yeah, he did.
How'd you feel about him starting a club in Fort Collins?
Well, I think he's very ambitious, because I don't think there's very many people, but I also think that he's built something there. I mean, remember, that's where I started, was in Fort Collins 32 and a half years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I am 27. That was 32 and a half years ago. It's new math.
Yeah.
Keep up, people.
Your mom was working there.
That's right. And so back then, when school was in, then it was about 100,000 in the whole town,
mm-hmm.
and without, it was about 80. So that was not the time for them to go into that market.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thrilled they did, because that's how I started. But I think it's different. I think that, again, they've really built it over time. Let's see if they can sustain it.
Right. Now, I didn't know, because I can't remember if it was the first or second time you did this, when we had brought up the improv, and how you was telling them, don't put it there, that's stupid, and all that. I just didn't know if you might have reached out to him and been like, I don't know about this one.
No, he reached out to me, and he certainly knows, our history. I'm sure
Right.
I shared that with him. But again, I just think it's different. There's a lot more people there. And most importantly, he's been in there doing shows. You know what I mean? And times are different. They're just different. And I think if anybody can do it, he can.
Right.
He's been in. I wouldn't go in there right now. He knows a lot more than I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's really revamped that scene.
Yeah, and I think that he'll figure out, he can't, I know that he can't go in there with my budget and do it every week. There's not enough people, right? Because the more people you have, they're not going to come out every week. They're just not. So you need a lot more people to sustain the kind of budgets that I run with those headliners, right? But he'll figure that out. And he'll start with one a month or every 5 weeks that are super big or whatever, And I don't think there's anybody else that has more experience that could do it any better. If anybody can do it, he can do it based on his experience and just his savvy.
Right.
He'll do it.
Now, have you, you just said you had planned on making a B room. Have you ever thought of franchising out, having more comedy works everywhere?
Oh, lots. But I gave that up after I did the club in New York. So when I bought Comedy Works back in 2000 or 2001, I had worked for the company prior, and then I bought it with one of the original owners of Comedy Works and our then CFO, and then about 10 and a half months later I bought them out. And so I wanted to expand. I felt like Chicago was the perfect place. At one point down there at Wells and whatever, there was Second City, and there had been the Funny Firm and the Improv and another club, and they were all within a block or two. I'm not kidding. Because years ago I used to date a jazz musician, and when he would have his first set, I would go hit a different club every night, and then, you know, I'd go see his second set or whatever.
Right.
So then there was nothing. The Improv was gone, Funny Firm was gone, of course Second City was still there, but there just wasn't anything in Chicago, and that was the sexiest city. Okay, except for that extreme weather thing they've got going on there.
Ridiculous.
Hello, wind and all that.
No thanks.
Cold, but I just felt like to that same vicinity because I wanted to be in Chicago. I didn't want to be in the suburbs. I felt like Chicago is where we needed it to be.
Right.
And I lost two real estate deals. Literally got to the table on the second deal with my attorney. I had to hire a real estate attorney there. Got to the table to negotiate, and the guy wanted to do a rent to own, which is like, oh my God. So I stopped pursuing that, and then the Improv was going to come here. I'm like, okay, this is time to sew up my own backyard.
Right.
So I did consider it, and I thought at one point that I would be in a couple of different major, you know, cities, but then I did the club in New York City called Comics, C-O-M-I-X. I consulted with them for 3 years. They were in the meatpacking district, and great club, beautiful club. These people had more money than God. Individually they did, and there were 2 of them. Put that together, that's a lot of money. And no expense was spared on anything. I remember sitting down at the table about like looking at the first construction stuff, and they were just astonished at this price tag, and I'm like, well, there's $400 and like some odd $1,000 for the tile in the lobby. I go, well, I don't know, let's just start there. That seems a bit much.
Jeez. Yeah. Just a wee bit.
Yeah, but they kept, I mean, the finishes were crazy. But anyway, that 3 years taught me that, and I was back and forth a lot, that I didn't want to get on a plane and travel to go to work.
Right.
You know, you've got somebody that's getting married and going on their honeymoon. At the same time, somebody gets the flu, and you know that you've got to get on a plane just to go to work, just to help, just to fix it. Ugh, I don't like airports, and I don't like flying. So I decided I didn't want to do that. And the South Club like beat the shit out of me.
Oh, yeah?
That was hard. Yeah, that was hard. So I go, I just want to stay in my own backyard.
Yeah. Now, I've always wanted to ask you this. I noticed that with Comedy Works, a lot of the more veteran pros that don't live here, the Sinbads, why do I keep forgetting Bob Saget? Why do I keep forgetting Bob Saget's name? But the Sinbads, the Bob Sagets, the Pauly Shores, I noticed that they do the South Club over downtown. Is that just because it seats more? Does it pay more? Do they get like a door deal or something?
Well, many of them that can sell every ticket in the house at highly accelerated prices, absolutely they're on door deals. And so it's really dictated by the artist.
It is.
Some artists will only play downtown. That's Chappelle. Preference. Rogan's never seen the South Club, but he would only play the downtown club. And others. And there's some that are just a little appropriate. Remember, if you've got tickets left over at the end, on a Saturday night, for instance, and you've got people that would be coming to the South Club that look a little bit more like me than you, they're a little bit older and they're a little bit fussier about how they spend their money. Yes. And maybe, I don't care how many fucks I hear, but they might, right? You know what I mean? So we're going to put somebody that's going to be cleaner there if they're not going to sell every ticket they've got. That's
why a lot of America's Got Talent guys are there and stuff, like Preacher Lawson and Piff and all those guys. But then, if they're edgier, if they're dirtier, if they're a little bit more controversial, and there might be tickets left over, chances are they're going to be downtown, right? And then, hopefully, we make the right decision, and a lot of those people, like Saget, can just sell that many. I can put Saget in a tent in the parking lot. He'll sell every ticket we've got, and so many more of them will. So that's 100 more seats. So over a Friday, Saturday, that's 400. Right. A Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that's 500. It's a lot more seats, right?
And it's a lot more money for them. So I mean, Dave Attell, you would think he'd be downtown, right?
Right.
But he sells every ticket we've got. He can make more money. He's fine. It's pretty easy. He's not like, he's like, yeah, it's okay.
I've always wondered that if it was you guys or if it was the comic themselves being like, yeah, we'll do better at the South Club than
I really have to do what they want.
Has there ever been a comic that you wish would do the other?
Maybe a couple here and there.
Like, do you wish Chappelle would do the South Club?
Well, Chappelle will do the South Club a little bit, but I mean, he wants to be downtown. Mm-hmm. Chappelle doing a show in a club is, I don't know, it's crazy enough.
Right.
I think it was Monday night. I was downtown having dinner with Elliot and Roger, and I popped in the back door. Well, everybody thought that Chappelle was going to be there then. I'm like, really? Why would you think? Well, because he's still in town. I go, yeah, but I've been given no indication, so he's not coming this time.
I ain't gonna lie, I got excited when I saw you come through the back door. I was like, oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Something's happening.
Is it? Oh no, she's just here? Oh, well.
Shit.
Hi, Wendy. Fucking. All right. But I always wondered that, man. And Comedy Works Entertainment also does like the Belco and Paramount.
Right.
And, are there any of those guys that has done the club, or are they always doing those theaters?
Well, I mean, they have, but
like Sebastian's.
Yeah, I mean, he used to do the club, and of course, I mean, all of those guys. Rogan used to do the club, and now he's sold out how many tickets at Belco?
Yeah.
Craziest thing.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's insane.
But and they still do come back. Aziz, I send these little sly, very obvious emails to their agent. Hello, it's me, Wendy. Just thinking about you and your client. Of course, very sappy, over the top. Of course, they know that I'm just letting them know. That after Aziz has done, however many shows he did when he was here, like in February,
right.
I think it might have been 3.
I think it was.
Maybe he did 2 on Saturday and then 1 on Sunday. Like after you sell out that one show, if he wants to slum it, I would be more than happy. And sure enough, they said, yeah, we'd love to do that. And do you know when they let me know?
What's that?
Sunday morning, 10 a.m. I happened to look at my email. Had I not, and then trying to get everybody on the phone to build that show, with all of that stuff, it takes literally maybe 10 minutes total to completely, from start to finish to get it all up and running. But we sold everything out.
Right.
Happens a lot.
I gotta ask you this. You gonna get Eddie Murphy?
Well, I've heard that he wants to do clubs. I don't. But I hear that he also doesn't want to. I hear that he also is scared because he doesn't feel like he has an act.
Yeah, he hasn't done it in a while.
But I'm here for him.
Tell him new talent night, man. Come on.
Listen, we'll let him do whatever he wants to do. Years ago I saw Seinfeld when he was trying to make a comeback, and I saw him in New York, and people were very generous. They weren't unkind, but they sat there and listened. And he's working on new stuff.
Right.
And everybody's been through that process. The difference is they've been through it before.
Right.
So Eddie knows what it takes, and that's probably what he's afraid of. Because dang it, it's a lot of hard work. It'll be easier for him this time. But he helped Charlie. Because when Charlie came in, like the first time, and they told me about Charlie, and I hadn't heard of Bill Burr, they go, book Charlie Murphy, bill it as Charlie Murphy and Friends. But this guy, Bill Burr, will come in, and Charlie will sell the tickets, but this guy, Bill Burr, will come in and do the cleanup, and the customers will leave happy. That happened twice, and now we know who Bill Burr is, right?
Crazy.
But Charlie Murphy, God rest his soul, also, became a great comic. And I was told that his brother Eddie traveled with him and would stand on the sidelines and, coach him afterwards.
Oh, that's cool.
I know, isn't that cool?
That
nice. Was a good man too, Charlie Murphy.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Too many people we've lost.
He's one of those guys I always wish I met. I never got to meet that guy.
Oh, he was a good guy. He was just funny. And he was funny with me because I'm a little white and naive, It's a little, not much.
Just a wee bit.
Just a wee bit, yeah, but he was just funny with me.
Now, I don't like him just because I am on usually the the bad side of when they show up to town, but YouTubers, these YouTube comedians that come through. I know it's more of a business thing for you, but honestly, how do you feel about the YouTube comics? Like, yeah, they'll sell out, but ugh.
Yeah. Well, you won't see those guys as a rule on the weekends in the primo spots, and I think I speak for a lot of clubs. We just discussed this in Montreal. That we've got to pay the rent. We got to, and that's another way. You know, if somebody can come in and sell out 2 nights and 4 shows on a Monday, Tuesday, hello, I don't care who they are.
Right.
Well, I got a few, you know, there's a few boundaries, right? But truly, that's just great for business, right? And then is able to keep the rest of it going more often when some people don't sell out, and or this, you know, the summers are getting hot and people are, you know, not coming out as much. And, you know, right now we're competing with so much concert. I mean, you know, do I need to tell you like how many more concerts? And that's comedy and everything. I mean, the market, they're talking about a little bit of market fatigue. Well, hello, that's because there's so much going on. We've developed such a hot scene, and Denver's become so hot in so many ways. We need to stop telling people about it, so they'll stop moving here, right? But nice. It's been a great, you know, it's a great place, and everybody's learning about it, and there's a lot of concerts.
Did you guys have anything to do with Chappelle and Stewart at Red Rocks?
We weren't on that. We weren't on that. That was strictly a Live Nation.
Okay.
But I took my mom up to Red Rocks backstage to see Chappelle and Jon Stewart. She didn't get to meet Chappelle. She met everybody else.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, Mom, we can get you your Christmas card picture. So my 74-year-old mom was up there.
Nice.
And Michael Che's like, you never brought your mom to a comedy concert before or never took her backstage? I go, no, but she's here now. She's your mom. You never took her before? And they go, well, no, because usually I'm working or trying to stay out of the way or something. But it was very cool.
Nice. Is this like Jon Stewart's like farewell to comedy tour, or is he?
You mean before he runs for president?
Yeah.
Because Chappelle is really pushing him to run for president.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was lots of conversation about that. I don't think so. I think we'll see more of him. You know, I think he's probably, you know, taking it easy after
the
I don't know, how long has he been off The Daily Show now? Maybe it's been 2-ish years?
Trevor's got to been, it's what, like Trevor's third
maybe
year.
Maybe it's even his 3rd year. But I would still think, maybe he's getting antsy now, I would think. I'm certainly guessing, I don't know.
I'd be losing my mind.
I bet you he's tired of resting and he's ready to go on to the next thing. And listen, I'd vote for him for president. Listen, I'd vote for anybody right now. Holy cow. If I thought that I could, well, I know I could do a better job. Maybe I should run. Anybody could do a better job. I apologize to any Republicans that might be here.
This is about comedy. They're not here. All right. Okay. Now, oh, by the way, again, if any of y'all got questions, don't leave it up to me. I'm just asking random. I'm just having a conversation up here now. So there's a mic over there. Feel free, ask a question whenever. Now, I brought up YouTubers.
Yeah.
What about the celebrity guys, the old Ron Jeremys, the Screeches, those guys that want to try to do stand up?
You know, Screech has been one of those over the years that's come up multiple times, but there's too much drama, not enough talent.
Don't do it.
And you know, we talk, and it's not that I haven't made mistakes, but we talk, we buyers, bookers, club owners, yeah. So, I don't know, somebody's got some, I don't know, something cool about him. Mick Foley was once one time, but I feel like now I can't remember. Did he come with somebody else, or maybe he came alone? So my trainer was the one that told me, oh my God, Mick Foley. I'm like, yeah, who the hell is Mick Foley? Oh my God, Mick Foley, I'll come see him. Okay, now I know it's the Beefheads. Okay, we got them coming in. Who else?
Or like Tyson doing a one-man show.
Yeah,
his
there
one-man
you go.
show. I'd come see that.
Yeah, I think I would too. That would be interesting.
I'd be all for that. I'm just wondering how you felt about all that. And
Michael Vick, I would draw the line there. You harm the dogs, and I'm sorry.
Michael Vick
You
started
can't
to
come
stand
in.
up. I'll quit. I just know anybody just can't do this. But but yeah, these guys that come with the controversy, you know, the controversial comics out there now.
The T.J. Miller, the Jeremy Piven.
Yeah, the C.K. and like how do you address those moments where it's like, dude, I could sell out all of these seats right now, ad shows, but how do you deal with that?
One by one, and not as a blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Hardwick was in that same category, and was, you know, had accusations had flown, I think last summer, and 6 weeks later everything had been reinstated, you know, because they did their homework and they gave him his show back and or whatever, and that's kind of how I felt. And he came in April and sold every ticket that we had, was gracious and lovely, his shows were great, and not a word. Because I think people follow that.
Right.
Obviously, when T.J. Miller was here maybe in November, I think it was last year, because it was the fall, it was rainy.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of people that had a lot to say about that. And I have to tell you, I was torn about that, because when the Rolling Stone article came out and I read it, I felt like, God, it could go either way. And I'm a woman. The last thing I want to do is not believe, is to not believe someone. But at the same time, how do you believe? Who am I?
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I booked him. My attorney told me to stay downstairs because he didn't want to see my face on the cover of, I don't know, the Rocky Mountain News, which is no longer, I don't know. He didn't want to see my picture in social media or something. And, you know, we got some heat for it. And I talked to TJ and he told me his stuff. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Right.
And so when I got an email from Louis C.K.'s assistant at the time, this was back last year at the end of the year, and I was doing end of year planning with my accountants where I was about ready to sit down for a 3 or 4 hour meeting.
Right.
Happened to glance at my phone, at my email. Here comes this email. I shot back really fast because my book is usually always with me. It was with me, and I said, these are my avails based on what they had sent me. Now, I very much knew that I wasn't just sending avails to an agent as I would do with any other kind of big act.
Right.
That there was a lot more to it, right? And we're looking at numbers and doing year-end planning for the next X amount of hours, and I'm half there because I'm thinking about this, because this isn't just any other big act.
Right.
I absolutely know that he could sell out a month,
Easy.
right?
Yeah, easy.
Every show we've got. But how do I feel about that? And so now I'm getting home, it's like 7:30 at night. I'll never forget this. I'm walking in, the house is dark, my phone lights up, and it happens to be a colleague living in LA that does some bigger stuff. And I said, I'm so glad you called. I don't know why you're calling, but can I tell you this? I told him, and I said, who do you know? Don't you know so-and-so? A victim, an alleged victim, let's say. And he said, I do. And I said, can you put me in contact with her? And he said, yeah, let me reach out to her. And she allowed him to give me her email address. I immediately reached out to her with kind of a clunky, not very eloquent, hey, my name is Wendy and I, Comedy Works, and how would you feel if, and I got a call from, or I got an email from, and she responded, kind of curt, and she said, she left a link to something that she had written, and she said, and I'll say no more. And I hadn't seen that, and I looked that day, and he and I'd spoken, and we talked about some things, and he'd sent me some things, and we talked, and I hadn't seen that. And that was, I don't know how you could see that from her perspective. I mean, you knew how she felt.
Yeah.
You knew how she felt then. And it was more than Louis, according to her. It was more of his people as well, doing what they could to shut her up, and really just curtailing opportunities,
Yeah.
And I just felt like I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that to her. Don't know her, but I couldn't do that to her. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to know how they felt. And I don't judge that man.
Right.
And I don't judge those victims, and again, I wasn't there. And I don't know what's been blown out of proportion or what's not been said.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel bad for that man's kids and his ex-wife.
Yeah.
Because they live with that. And he does too. But it's an unfortunate circumstance, but I think it is time that this stuff does come to light so that they'll stop. You can't just do that. You
Right.
can't just whip out your genitalia or whatever
Mm-hmm.
and think that stuff is okay.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
And nobody here would do that because y'all know better. I don't know. It's that thing of power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. I appreciate you answering that. I was wondering that myself. Somebody walked up with somebody.
Oh, then we talked too long and then he left.
Oh, he did?
Okay.
Oh.
I had two questions, but one was
Go for it.
kind of a comment on this. This seems like something that you take very personally of people that might be in the spotlight for negative things. It's something that you do a lot of research in, and looking in the future, there might be a mistake where you put on someone that is in poor favor in the public eye. What do you have to say to people that express outrage towards the club or you whenever you miss those things? Like if you never reached out to that woman or had the opportunity to reach out with that woman, there could be a potential that you put on Louis. So looking at future events, what would you say to people that were maybe possibly outraged about Miller or something like that?
Well, first of all, I think always about Louis, it was in the back of my head that I probably couldn't do this, you know, and understand as well that TJ Miller had just happened.
Right.
And then some of my friends in another club in this country just had on somebody else this weekend that sold out and not a peep out of them. And I passed on him because I knew. We're just a different market. And they're just, you know, in Cleveland, they're a little quieter about this stuff. Denver, a little bit more vocal about this stuff. And understand that it's not, again, I'm not judging people. I don't know, I wasn't there. And so I don't want to take that. And I don't want to go, Louis a motherfucker, he's a scumbag, he deserves what he gets, because I don't feel that. I feel like he may have taken some, he may have had some actions based on whatever, and he's paying the price, but I don't know for sure.
Right.
Who knows for sure? But I am the gatekeeper of this brand. This is what I do. You guys have not done anything else in my life of any significance, other than raise a very healthy four-legged child named Lucy. She had very good self-esteem, very good, healthy, high esteem. But I've never, you know what I mean? This is all I've done. I don't have children. Up until recently, I've never had any kind of a successful relationship. You know what I mean? I've never done anything. This is all I've ever done, and this is my legacy. You do the best that you can, and you try to uphold the brand and not muck it up and not offend people. But you're automatically offending people by not letting some people come in, right? Because you're somehow, you know, they've got a First Amendment right. Well, no, not really, because if they're not on the stage yet, you know, I'm not really ever publicizing that. And the fact that, you know, that whole Louis C.K. thing, I think, I don't know who it was, but that victim that I did reach out to told somebody who told somebody, and it got to Jezebel, that it was a publication, an online publication, who reached out to me, and I was like, do I want it? And it was kind of early in the morning before I had enough caffeine maybe, and I returned her call, and then basically I ended up doing an interview, and then it went bananas, and everybody wanted to, I could have done press all over the country for like a month, because they want my perspective. I'm like, really? It's not that big of a deal. Because, and it would, like this is a decision, like nobody cares what insurance carrier I use, or, you know, that I change my insurance carrier. Like this just happens to be something, a business decision that you want to talk about. But, you know, it is what it is, and it's just one of those kind of tough things that you got to do. And I wouldn't have publicized that stuff. But somebody else did.
Cool. And then the other question I had was, completely different topic, but you mentioned the B Club that you might be interested in opening. What would that be focused on? Would it be more local people or smaller shows for larger acts, or
I think it would be a combination, and I don't think it would be like what I had considered to be like a nice B room, you know, seating 250 or something in the suburbs. I think this would be a little room downtown, like the, what is it called in, like what is the Comedy Store call their room? Their little
belly room.
Belly room. You know, it would be one of those, or what the Comedy Cellar calls their little room. It's more like that.
Okay.
My friends at the DC Improv have a little room. It would be more like that. Maybe it seats, I don't know, depending on what size I can get, but you know, 50 or 75 or whatever. And it could be some people that, it could be somebody that it's just a smaller act that I can't get in because I just don't have room. And it could be local, it could be, and it could also be some more out there sort of stuff in an experimental room. You know, my working title is Comedy Workshop,
Right.
because Comedy Works is still in there. Rogan's always like, no, you got to use Comedy Works.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah, of course. Like, who doesn't know about branding with that man right now, right?
Yeah, seriously.
So that's what I'm thinking, but I don't know. And I'm just going to keep talking about it because in the past I've put things out into the universe, and as opposed to kind of keeping it close to the vest, and things have come around when I put it out in the universe. I'm going to put it out there.
And you said you keep it in Larimer Square, close to the downtown
That's what I would
club?
like to do, because then as we experiment and try to figure out, it's right there.
Right.
You know, and it needs to be downtown. It doesn't, you know, it can't be in the suburbs somewhere. Right? Because I've got the room south in the suburbs to put something like this, but I don't have enough bodies,
Right.
you know, to come on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, right? They want to see big acts because we've paid our dues. You know, that's how they are, right? That's what that demographic is more like.
Right. Now the whole putting butts in seats. Do you really care about credits? You know what I mean? How somebody be like, yeah, well, I was on Comic View in 1992, you know, whatever like that, and they still do you really care who's like how? You know what I mean? You know.
Well,
what I'm
if we're talking, I mean, it all has to be relevant to the price tag,
Right.
right? If you're going to buy a pair of pants, I don't know, and it's got gold stitching, I mean, you know, the price tag has to be relevant. So the credits and their social media maybe or whatever. So today I got a call about Marlon Wayans, and I happened to have a hole September 27th through 29th at the South Club. He was here in 2015 and 2017 at the South Club because he could sell a lot of tickets. $45 ticket, that's a
Jesus.
high ticket price, especially when I was remembering back and looking at the research. Well, mostly I was talking on the phone and making somebody recite the research to me. They were $45 on the off night too, not just the Friday, Saturday. And he sold a truckload of tickets, and I go, yeah, but what's relevant? What's he doing right now? Oh, he's got a movie coming out tomorrow. Okay, all right, calling that agent back. And because it's all relevant, right? What did they have? And he did a whole lot of press last time. He likes to do press. He's a nice guy. But I did make it clear to them after the first time, he can't come back until I find out how one person can consume so many calories and look like that. And I did not get my answer, so I'm going to make sure that that's in writing. Truly, the man ate like everybody's meals plus his own, that he ordered like 4 meals. I'm like, that's incredible. He's got to work out like 10 hours a day to do that. But so it's all relevant to the price tag, you know, and sometimes really relevant. I mean, think about Sinbad's not doing anything right now, this minute, but he sells a lot of tickets when he comes in. Now, Mark Curry is another one I can just think of.
Hanging out with Mr. Cooper.
Oh my God, hanging with Mr. Cooper, and he sold so many tickets for so long, and then suddenly, kapow, it was done. And I don't know why that happens. I don't know why that happens, because he sold so many, and that show was on for a while, and he sold so many tickets for so long, and he was the nicest guy, and he was funny, but then kapow, like completely fell off the radar, and he couldn't sell a ticket one. I don't get the phenomenon, but what I do know is that you can do so much more as young comics with your social media. The people that have, you know, there's a lot of funny people out there that have no game in social media. And then there's a lot of funny people that have got a game going on in social media. They help build their own stuff. That's a difference. I think it's a difference that people need to pay attention to. Get a following, you know?
Trying, man. Now, this is something I genuinely always wanted to ask you. I meant to ask you this earlier, but it skipped my mind. When I started doing stand-up, everybody was still wearing the blazers with the t-shirt. You know, they was still,
pushing their sleeves up.
Yeah, it was still, like it was still that. And
they were predominantly white guys.
Yes.
Doing that.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was always
they looked just alike. And they had like acid washed almost jeans on.
Mm-hmm. The Tim Allen uniform, basically. Yeah. And then I noticed comedy started getting a little more dressed down. You know, like Bill Burr and Chappelle just started wearing long sleeve button-ups, and then next thing you know, Rogan and Maron are just wearing tank top. I mean, not tank tops, but t-shirts. And I always wonder, do you have in your mind a dress code for comics that aren't, you know, the character guys like the fluffies and the
I think that's a great question, and I think that it depends on the person, you know, because think about all those guys that were doing that. They all looked alike, and I swear when I put together a showcase, I want people at the water cooler that are talking about their night at Comedy Works the night before. I don't want them to confuse the jokes. So I don't want to put two really bigger guys that are dark-headed at about the same height, right? In a perfect world, wouldn't you put a really skinny guy and then a much larger guy and then a girl and then a black guy, right? Wouldn't you mix it up just so, because I want them to remember. So that's part of what you put it, but you also want the show to progress. But I think that you need to differentiate yourself.
Right.
And although I think it's the funniest thing that Sam brought up about Deacon, that Deacon said, remember when we were doing the thing on New Talent Night, that thing we did on Facebook that Deacon could see, that Sam hosted it, Sam Talent, and Sam hosted it, and he had on like cut-off shorts or something because Deacon told him to never wear shorts again because he looked like a kid on stage. And the whole idea was we were saying, we were doing the show for our friend, and so they had to do something that Deacon gave you this tag or helped you write that joke or hated that joke or loved that joke or, you know, or hated the fact that you wore shorts. Funny. But I think that you need to look, I don't think that wearing jeans and a ball cap and a t-shirt is wrong at all. I think it should match your act. That's all. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I think it should match your act. And look at your people who comes to see you. What do they look like? You don't want to dress. I don't think this is me. I don't think that you want to put on a really expensive suit. I could be wrong, but to look at a Joe Rogan audience.
Yeah.
Know your audience, right? And maybe that's a little different because he is so big, but I just think you don't want to. You want to dress above your audience. You want to meet them where they are, right?
Right.
So if they wear ball caps and flannel, I think that you should consider working that into, not in the summertime. Flannel would be too hot, but working into your wardrobe.
I always wonder what Larry the Cable Guy does when he goes to like Wisconsin in December. Is he still wearing cut-off sleeves and shorts?
He is.
Well, he got enough money. He got a heater.
Yeah.
But,
definitely no sleeves.
Yeah, no. But hey, man, it works for him. But yeah, it's funny. I remember all I was told coming up was, "Hey, man, you gonna look like that on stage? You gotta at least have a blazer." That's because that's when I came up, and I was just always wondering what other clubs thought.
Well, you know, I mean, and having a blazer in your closet and being ready for something. If you're gonna suddenly get a gig emceeing for a benefit, throw a blazer on and put on your nice T-shirt or some whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you need to be a little versatile, but I still think because isn't your audience going to be a little different? Maybe if you're at a fundraiser.
Right.
I just think that you need to meet your audience where they are. Is that stupid?
Cool.
That's what I think.
I mean, it came for you. It can't be stupid when it comes to that. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hello, Mr. Crawford.
How you doing?
Congratulations on your continuing success with this podcast.
That's right.
Miss Curtis,
Yes,
it's
sir.
a pleasure to have you on this man's podcast.
Thank you.
And it's a pleasure to have you in front of all of us. I'm a fan. I listened to your own podcast you did a couple of summers ago. And thank you for all you've done to support comedy here in Denver. We
Thank
greatly
you.
appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure, truly.
Thank you, man.
Damn, I thought my nose was brown.
You're right. You're right. So, and then also, Mr. Crawford, I was going to actually put you on the spot, Miss Curtis. I know you and Mr. Chappelle, by listening to the podcast, y'all are kind of buddies, right?
Yeah, a little.
It's a big dream of this young man to have Mr. Chappelle on. Is there any way you can maybe throw like a little like Chappelle's coming to town? Hey, look, I got a buddy. I got a buddy Thursday night.
I didn't ask him to do this, by the way.
Maybe just you can make this young man's dream come true. Just throwing some good stuff out in the universe.
That's an interesting question, and something similar has come up because there's some people that that think it's a good idea to do a documentary about Comedy Works. And I told them of my A-list, who I wanted of big comics to be on it. It was Rogan and Chappelle.
Right.
And Louis Anderson was another one.
Nice.
And George Lopez. And I think one of the reasons that I have such a good relationship with Chappelle is that I kind of don't cross that line. Like, while his number is in my cell phone, I would not reach out to him about that, about the film crew that was just here shooting for a sizzle reel for that documentary. That I reached out through the normal channels to my agent that deals with him. Hey, documentary, who would they contact? And this was months ago. He gave me the name and the email address, and I said, this is how you do it. So I don't cross that line. And with George, I can. That seems to be a little different. But I very much read those relationships, and there's some people that just don't, that I can't do that with.
That being said, do you have any advice to help Mr. Crawford achieve that very goal?
You think you keep talking about it. You got to put it out into the
Yeah,
universe.
that's how I start every episode.
Yeah, and you never know.
And then on a more personal note, you look fantastic for 27. I know you said
you
something
so
about your
much.
trainer earlier.
Thank you so
Give him
much.
kudos. Your triceps look fantastic.
Yeah, well, those are bruises, but thank you so much.
I was curious, being such a successful entrepreneur as you are, what is your, roughly, I don't need creeper status, but
Right.
like roughly, what is your daily regimen? Like, what time do you kind
in,
of roughly get
in
up?
the
Where's
last
the
couple
time
of years,
go?
I've gone to a little bit more banker's hours because I did work for so many years, 70 hours a week, every week, that it just kind of, at a certain point at age 27, let me tell you, after 30 years of that, it just breaks your body.
Kills a lot of rock stars at that age.
Yeah, exactly. Because at a certain point, you're just deprived, and your body's just lacking of sleep and overdone with stress, and it kind of just showed. It wasn't nothing like cancer or anything, but adrenal fatigue. They're like, don't step in front of a train because you don't have the energy to get out from, of its way, that sort of thing. So I had to slow down. And that part's been hard because I love this business and I love the energy at night too. But, the other stuff's got to get done during the day, because Budweiser representatives don't answer the phone at 10 o'clock at night, and neither do your insurance people and all that sort of stuff. So the bigger business stuff that has to happen during the day, I do that. I don't like it as much. So my day could start at any given time. Yesterday I never made it out of the house. I just started working at the dining room table, and I never left. So there's some days like that, and there's some days that I'm in the office. And then I've also, I've been working on the new South condo. I bought a new condo for the comics out south, so I had to trick it out. It's very cool. I'll show you guys pictures later. I took a bunch of pictures.
Cool.
It's very cool.
I think your answer in being super successful was that 70 hours for so many years.
For so many years. My dad told me there was never anything that anybody will throw at you that hard work can't overcome. And that's the God's honest truth. There's nobody in this business in my organization now or has ever been that would work as hard as I will. Because I would work when nobody else would. I could do it when nobody else could. Didn't mean I could do it faster. It just meant that I would stick in there and do it. And in the beginning, you know, I definitely outworked every other Comedy Works manager when I first came on. I was willing to do anything. Part of that's just that 20s sort of energy, you know, and exuberance, but I just never thought I was going to get anywhere by, you know, drawing my lines. Well, I've worked my 40 hours now, and I hear a lot of that. Okay, well, good luck getting somewhere. 40 hours a week, it's going to take you a lot longer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for asking.
What you got, Kev?
Hey, how's it going? Is there any kind of official policy as far as letting us like go sit in the back of some of the shows? Maybe ones that aren't popular as sold out. I know that it's a little foggy when I talk to the managers, and I just want to get a little bit of clarification.
Yeah,
on
and
that.
thank you for saying that, because we'll re-clarify it with them too. And that is, you know, call ahead, especially if we think that it might be a little bit more busy, because if there's room, they're going to put you on a list and you can come in, and that's just it. We're never going to charge you. We're going to hang you from the rafters if we have to. If there's room, we want you to see those shows. So we'll put you, you know, on the side or in the back or wherever. But you call ahead, ask for a manager, and they will put you on the list.
Thank you.
Okay?
And don't hang
Thanks
out
for
in the
asking.
green room.
Oh yeah, and stay out of the green room.
Don't hang out in the green room. Anybody else got a question?
That's a really good thing. You guys, I stay out of the green room.
Yeah.
For many years, I didn't go back there at all. Otherwise, I'd poke my head in and go, hey, how you doing? And you know, it's their green room. Back when we allowed smoking in buildings, which is the craziest thing when you think about it, considering how small green rooms are, right?
Yeah.
You know, if the headliner was a smoker, it was a smoking green room. If the headliner wasn't, it was a non-smoking. And, you know, they're our guest, and so it's their green room. And it's a small room, and they're working, and that's how I take it. You know, I don't want to stay back. I never stay back there too long. I never want to overstay my welcome, but I also want them to know that I'm here and I appreciate them being here, etc. Does that make sense? It's their green room. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I might be wrong. The only time you go in the green room is either you're on the show or you know the headliner, personally.
Yeah.
That's just like when Moranzio Vance did the downtown club. Like, I was like, sweet, I went to college for that dude, you know. And but yeah, it's that's the only time I go back there is if you know them. What I was about to ask? That green room and threw me off.
The green room. Are they always green? Well, most of them are.
Sometimes. What you got, buddy?
Yeah. What is the difference between an A room and a B room? I've always wanted to know that.
Oh, that's a good question. The difference between an A room and a B room is, like, you know, an A room would be considered somebody that's really getting top talent all the time, but that's their agenda. And that's just kind of what we've morphed into over time is, you know, the biggest acts we can get our hands on. And then a B room, like, has a very different agenda. And that is great talent that's not those huge price tickets with huge names all the time. Just great, solid comedy. That's and there've been there's some C rooms and D rooms, I suppose we could get, you know, but really the there's a lot of them. But we could, you know, for our purposes, really it's, you know, it's an A room and a B room.
Well, what would it take for a comic to book a B room then?
What would it take?
Yeah.
Show up.
I mean, I think you'd have to, you know, you deal with agencies. I
Okay.
think you're going to be dealing with young talent from agencies, certainly, because they're going to, and not everybody, certainly, but there's going to be a lot of talent that you're going to be able to get that's not necessarily selling a lot of tickets by their name. You know, Troy Walker would be a good example, right? Troy Walker is with an agency, and Troy Walker isn't selling tickets, but who's going to book Troy Walker and think that's not a great act, right?
Right. Yeah, from
Right.
good times. The other question was, you mentioned about paying the rent. I don't know if that meant by your apartment or that you meant by the venues you're at. Because I remember you expansion into the Landmark.
Right.
I didn't know if that was a leasing thing or that you bought the building and stuff. Because I know you've already at that time you've already had over 10 years of doing the club business.
Right. So the Landmark's been open for almost 11, if you can believe it, almost 11 years.
Wow.
And I did buy that building. And I've bought every building that we have as far as in the enterprise, except I don't own the downtown club itself. I own the condos, I own our corporate offices, the world headquarters, really. And because, if your mom and dad ever preached at you, as soon as you can, you stop paying rent and you buy a condo or whatever you can afford. Because real estate's a game and you got to get in the game, right?
Right.
So I pay rent, literally pay rent downtown. But remember, the thing about rent is that it keeps going up. Every time you sign a new lease, you're paying market value. And I'm in a dank, damp, dark basement, and I pay serious ass rent. Because that's the nature of Denver, of Larimer Square, of downtown Denver. And that mortgage that I started paying almost 11 years ago was the largest thing I could ever imagine in my life. But when you look at what I might be paying for rent now, it sure has come down a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the benefit of buying a place. You've got a place. And remember, real estate and the stock market, that's how traditionally people have built wealth in this country. And I read a lot of those books way back when. And now you can build a lot of wealth by being Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle. But for people like me, it's real estate and the stock market. So that real estate will be there maybe years from now if that business is not. That makes sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that nut, but paying that rent, you got to pay that. You got that nut you got to be able to pay. And what's that nut? We got to pay the rent.
Another thing, back to the A and B room thing. A lot of franchises, a lot of comedy club franchises, like you can see the difference in tiers in those clubs too. Like the Hollywood Improv, drastic difference from the Denver Improv. You know what I mean? That's kind of one way you can look at the tiers. Hollywood Improv, like we know everyone that's in that building right now. Everybody that touches that stage, we've known them for years.
Yeah, household names.
Yeah, and then clubs like the Improv here, which is a good club, but a lot of times you won't know who the hell they are unless you grew up in the 90s or you watch a lot of YouTube and stuff like that. Not knocking them at all, but just saying. That's one way you can notice the difference. Didn't mean to jump piggyback.
No, but that's true. And the Comedy Store and the Improv in LA have, they're different in terms of all those people live there. Like the Comedy Cellar. All those people live there. And so they've got huge talent all the time. You never know who's going to be up. If it's going to be, your top tier of favorites or your second tier of favorites. They've always got those people crazy.
It's a hard hustle.
Yes, it is. But that would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be great.
That would be fun.
Anybody else got a question? Anybody? Hey, come on up. She's here. How often you get a chance to ask a question?
Just because you were at JFL, do you have anything to say about Sam and Janae going? Did you see them? Whatnot?
Of course I saw them. They performed on Thursday and Friday night at late shows. And that means that Just for Laughs in Montreal put them up for Wednesday and Thursday and Friday night. And I said, no, I want you to come in on Tuesday, and I want you to stay through Saturday and go home on Sunday. I will pay for your hotel on those extra 2 nights because I want you to be there. Most especially Saturday night after they've performed on Thursday and Friday, right? Because all you're doing is you're at parties, you're at shows, you're hanging out. You want to be present. They want to be present. I'm hiding and I'm turning over my tag because I don't want people to know who I am. Dead serious. And I want them to be out there because they're talented and lovely and wonderful human beings and funny comics, and I want people to see them. And it worked because And I used to run a couple of rooms years ago, backstage at Just for Laughs, and I saw this. I ran Club Soda years ago for 2 years, and for the festival, and I'd know what my lineups were every night, but then they would be shoving other people on the lineups, right? So from way back when, I knew they did this, and sure enough, Sam was there on Saturday night, and they put him on a show with Jim Norton.
Nice.
Jim Norton loved him, and now he's going to be doing some shows around the country with Jim Norton.
Nice.
That's why I wanted them to stay, because that would happen. And let me tell you how they killed.
Yeah.
I don't mean to brag, but we had 3 Denver people there, and they fucking showed up and delivered. All 3 of them. So proud of them. It was really great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So thanks for asking. I'm glad you said that. They did really well.
Nice. We got any more questions out there? Anything else? Anything else? Now
Green. My favorite color is green.
So I'm interested about live podcast shows like Doug Loves Movies and stuff. How do you see that rolling out in the future?
Yeah,
well,
like
I'm very glad that you should say that, because we're building a podcast studio in the downtown club.
Yeah.
Dead serious.
Yeah.
We have some rooms, some little rooms, and one of my managers and one of my staff members came to me. I go, yeah, we can do that. Okay. I go, we got to do something with those floors first. Watch this. And so we're going to do a little podcast studio. And not that, we know, like I did a podcast for a year, right? With a little $400 machine in my dining room or in the living room or in my office. Yeah, certainly somebody else turned on because I'd be doing a podcast and the fucker wouldn't be on or something. But we know that, right? And that was the same machine that Mark Maron still uses now. But we're going to do a little studio, and I don't know, it's maybe a little less than half the size of this whole thing. And I think we're going to put some cameras in there and whatnot too. I want it to be kind of mobile so that we can move it somewhere else if need be. I'm going to trick it out because I like that stuff. I already got a couple little ideas. But I think it's a big thing, obviously, right? That's how a lot of people are meeting their audiences. Joe Rogan's very funny, but the Joe Rogan experience is how his people... Huge. Everybody knows who Joe Rogan is. That's the craziest thing to me. But they listen to his podcast. I listen to his podcast.
Mark Maron.
Yeah. Mark Maron had Barack Obama.
Yeah, that's huge.
Barack, he was the president for 8 years. And a good man. It's just, and if that doesn't show us how big our business, how our comedy business is, and if that doesn't show us that podcasting is huge, I think it's terribly huge. I don't think anybody's asking Donald Trump to be on a podcast, are they?
Probably not.
I don't think
Probably
so.
are.
Yeah. Well, we wouldn't listen to those, would we? We wouldn't listen to those.
I'm sure they podcast. I don't know what they're talking about.
But I think it's a big deal.
Sure it's an NRA
to kind of expand on that, how now that there's like live shows, how are they finding a place in, theaters, clubs, obviously, but they are a new type of, audience bringer.
Well, and agents are onto that. I was just talking to my CAA agent who was somewhere in Florida, I think, yesterday at some podcast convention.
Oh, nice.
I know. And I'm like, what?
Convention.
And
Pitch
I don't
for
even,
everything.
and I don't even know when he's coming back. But he's out. I bet you he's out there looking for podcasts that they think they can sell tickets with, or something, are interested in touring and what kind of a following they have, because they know if they've got a social media following, how big that following, they know that how they can translate that into tickets.
Thank you.
Yep.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah. It's a big deal when everybody and their mama has a damn podcast all of a sudden.
Which, by the way, I am going to have another podcast here soon.
Of course you are, Wendy.
We did the last one that Rick and I did was called How Comedy Works, and we wanted to reach to our new talent people, and we felt like it was done, like we'd said it, and we didn't care about other people outside of our market. We didn't care about making money. The idea was simply, how do we get to 350 people?
Right.
And we try to impart as much information as we can. Well, now I've decided that I wanted to talk to other clubs, club owners, bookers, I don't know, people that do other things. Maybe there's some of my agent or manager friends. And I'm going to call this one, What Comedy Works. So we did How Comedy Works. Now we're going to do What Comedy Works. And it's just like, you know, what's your system? What do you look for? What do you want?
Right.
Again, I don't care who listens to it outside of our own community. If they want to listen to it, they can. But I want to impart as much information, because I'm not the end all in information. I might think I am, but I'm not, you know. But what do these other club owners, bookers, people want? Festivals, what do they want? What are they looking for? What's their process?
Right.
Would that be helpful?
Yes.
I think so too. So, What Comedy Works?
Oh yeah. What Comedy Works, guys, man.
So every Tom, Dick, and Wendy has a podcast.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Damn it, Wendy. I thought I had the game cornered on this comedy information podcast stuff.
But it's all relevant. It's all
I
relevant,
know.
right? If you pick up, like somebody said to me years ago, like about if you go to a half-day business seminar or you read a business book or something, if you take one thing from that you can put into your, you know, your day that makes you more organized or effective, or in your relationships with dealing with people, whatever, one thing that you can impart, then it's been worth it. You listen to a podcast and you can take one thing. We can all take one thing. Go, oh, that's smart. Why wouldn't I ever think of that? Or that's a cool way to think about it, or whatever, right?
Yeah. All right. Last call for questions. What we doing? Let's go, Pooh.
Hey, I always wondered, do you handpick the comedians for Film on the Rocks? And if so, do you try to pair them up with a specific movie?
You know, I don't have anything to do with Film on the Rocks at all anymore. The last couple of years I haven't.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's Mike and maybe the marketing department kind of a thing. I don't have a thing to do with it anymore. But that's a good question.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Film on the Rocks is something they do with Red Rocks, show a movie, have a comic, and I want to do it so bad. But yeah, performing to like 5,000 people right before they watch
Hello.
Home Alone or whatever. It's the best.
But you know, you should kind of match that comic. If it's really a family show, you don't want to get up there with somebody that's dropping a lot of F-bombs and stuff. That is the consideration, certainly. You want to meet your audience where they are. So you need somebody clean to do that one, you know, for instance. And a lot of them kind of are these days. A lot of them are cleaner. It's the families coming out. But if you haven't been to Red Rocks, and I'm sure, has everybody been to Red Rocks to see something? Yeah, if you haven't, you got to go do something. It's the most, my mother hadn't been there. That's why I took her to see Chappelle and everybody, right?
Did they sell it out? Did they sell out Red Rocks?
God, yeah. And then he sold out the Fillmore like in a minute. Like, he's coming. I know he's coming to Comedy, so I know. Oh.
Yeah, I heard he's doing another special next year. Another one.
He filmed a special in June that they're just working on the editing, is
Really?
what his wife told me.
Huh.
And I thought he was getting ready for a special, but she said they filmed it in Atlanta in June, so they were working on editing and the credits and whatnot right
So
now.
that's the special
They
that's
just
talking about
released a
him
preview
releasing.
right now.
Trailer came
Oh,
out.
did they?
Trailer
Yeah.
came out
there's a
today.
trailer.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
It's called
There you
Sticks
go.
and Stones.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
man.
voice by Morgan Freeman's funny. Sorry, guys.
He's brilliant. He really is. Have I told you about that? Like years ago when I did work for Just for Laughs in Montreal, like Dave Chappelle was getting to be kind of a big deal. He was definitely a big deal there. And wow, I mean, I was mesmerized. Didn't know Dave Chappelle from anywhere other than those 2 years, and there he would be on that stage, and there'd be like a pool of light and a stool and him. And it was like, holy shit. I mean, you knew that you were in the presence of back then.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know, how much younger is he than me? But he was young. Because I was like 32 maybe. He was young and brilliant. Man's always been brilliant and humble. Man's always been humble.
Yeah. He makes me mad sometimes. It's
Yeah.
too good. It irritates
He's a
me
cool
sometimes.
dude.
Last call for questions. Any more questions? Going once, going twice. Okay. All right. So the way I always end these, I ask the same 2 questions every time. And like I said at the beginning of this, by no means is today an exception to that rule. So Wendy, first question. What is a pet peeve of yours that you see comics doing?
What is a pet peeve that I see comics doing? Thinking that they should get higher, I suppose, really truly, thinking that they should be considered more because they are Asian or female or gay or whatever.
Right.
No, funny. Bring the funny.
Yeah.
You ain't. There's nothing. There's nothing that'll get you further in the business than funny. Period. And nobody can deny you if you're funny.
Right.
Then who's not going to book you if you're funnier than shit, right?
Right.
That's it. Doesn't matter if you have long hair and a mustache, if you're thin and black, and you're both men. It just doesn't matter. That shit doesn't matter. And don't think it's going to get you anywhere, because funny. Bring the funny first. And,
Right.
and that truly is a pet peeve of mine. Not from comics. It's more so from other people, I think. You know.
I get that. And now the second last question I'll ask you, Wendy. What is something you wish comics would do more often?
I wish that more younger comics, I wish they would work on their social media. It's so easy now. It's so easy to do that you can learn that yourself, or impart a friend to help you do that, because as you grow, you can bring your own audience. Years ago when we were working on a sizzle reel about Comedy Works, and we sent the sizzle reel to George Lopez's production company. A woman was the president of that, and her response was, you've got some really eccentric, great characters in here, and let me tell you that right now, Honey Boo Boo and those duck fart guys, whatever they are, that's like what's on the menu right now for reality shows. But if you were coming with 100,000 followers, people would take this seriously. There's something here, but because you've got none of that, But if you came with some followers of your own, what does that say to you? And that was how many years ago? A handful. That was when I was broke, because I was willing to just about do anything to figure that out. Now I go, fuck that, I'm not going to tell my personal life. I'm not going to do a reality show and open myself up for that, right? So things are better. But what does that say to us about that part of it? And certainly, why would we book these goofy YouTubers and whatnot on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday nights? Because they've got a huge following. How do we get that following? By putting ourselves on YouTube and figuring out Twitter and all the social media. Because we can do it ourselves. It's not about placing radio and print ads anymore, right? That's not how you get your following, and you don't have to have a special anymore to get a following. You can figure out your following and you can grow it yourselves. So that's what I really want to go, is like, get off your butt, get your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your friend to figure that out if you don't want to do it. But have somebody on your team figure that stuff out for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry I'm so wordy.
Oh, no, it was great, man. It was a podcast. We need you to talk.
That's right.
I appreciate it.
I talk a lot.
Everybody give it up for Wende Curtis one more time.
Thank you, guys.
Great person, great club. Normally I would tell y'all who's going to be on the next episode, but the next episode is probably going to be High Plains Comedy Festival, and I don't know who I'm getting yet. So,
wow, it's gonna be. It could be big.
Yeah, hopefully. Who knows? Let's go, Maria. But hopefully I can get some of those big names. If not, whatever. We're gonna have fun regardless. I'm gonna be up here with probably 2, 3, 4 counts. Who knows? But yeah, come back here at Mutiny Info Cafe during High Plains is coming up. This those never been here, coolest block in Denver. I'm not gonna lie, this is like the coolest spot in Denver. No offense, Comedy Club's great, but but Mutiny Information Cafe. This place is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah, I'm Anthony Crawford. Come see me perform at some point. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.